My name is Taylor. I'm 37 years old. I started my own company when I was 31. Business has been going well, and I have around 20 employees now. It's a friendly and fun workplace. I'd like to tell you about the ups and downs of my life before starting this company. I got married at 27 and had a child at 29. When I was single, I worked as a web designer for a company. I didn't really have a strong desire to get married, but I was set up on a blind date with a guy through my family acquaintance. Leo was the same age as me and worked as a salesperson for a big company. He came on strong right from the beginning and proposed before long. I ended up quitting my job and becoming a homemaker as he wanted, but it didn't take me long to realize his true nature. First of all, he couldn't detach from his parents. Later, I found out that our marriage was primarily to please them, and anyone would be okay as long as it made them happy. So he often went to see them on weekends, leaving me alone at home. On top of that, he was pretty self-centered. He was raised as an only child and was spoiled by them. I had to prepare a fresh towel in advance when he took a shower, and if I ever forgot, he got extremely angry. In the morning, I had to lay out his suit and everything he needed on the bed. Dinner had to have at least 5 different vegetables, and frozen food or pre-made dishes were a big no-no. Not only that, but I always had to keep the entire house in an immaculate state. I had to vacuum and mop every morning and evening. Of course, he never lifted a finger to help with any of this. Despite that, I tried my best because I was his wife. Soon after, I became pregnant. Both families were overjoyed, and I hoped that this would be the catalyst for him to change a bit. I was completely wrong. When I had morning sickness and couldn't do housework as usual, he got furious and berated me for not being able to do what everyone else could. As I did my best with chores with my growing belly, he just played games on his phone. Not only was there never a sign of him wanting to help, but he seems to have no awareness of becoming a father. I gave birth to a baby girl named Eva. My expectations were in vain, and his selfishness grew even worse after the birth. When I returned home from the hospital, I was greeted with a huge pile of dishes. He hadn't done any housework at all while I was out. I had to juggle taking care of the newborn while straightening up the house for a while. As usual, he never showed any gesture of appreciation whatsoever. On the contrary, he said that I should have been able to finish something as basic as that in no time. Furthermore, he mocked me about my post-pregnancy weight gain.
You are fuller. You look like a meatball. Hey, meatball, answer me.
He looked at me with a contemptuous gaze. According to my doctor, my weight gain was entirely within the standard range. I had planned to start a diet at some point, but this really got on my nerve. He wouldn't help with housework and looked down on me after giving birth. Cut it out! When I finally yelled at him, he angrily stood up, knocking over his chair.
Who the heck are you talking to? I'm the breadwinner here. You, as my wife, should just do as I say. Besides, anyone can handle housework. Don't act so high and mighty.
I was so furious that I couldn't even respond. From then on, he constantly made fun of my appearance.
Hey, meatball, is dinner ready? Oh, here comes the sumo wrestler. Do you even know what losing weight means?
He mocked me as he pleased. I had to endure it, because if I said anything back, I thought that chairs might start flying like in a wrestling brawl. Above all, I had to protect Eva. He didn't help with housework or childcare at all. Taking care of the crying baby, changing diapers, and doing household chores all at once was tough. I went through each day with no makeup and wearing just the glasses, looking completely worn out. I had no time for anything. There were even days when I could only go to the bathroom once in the morning. Still, I encouraged myself, thinking that this was what being a mother meant. One day, while Leo was criticizing my appearance as usual, he suddenly brought up divorce.
"You've become a mess ever since you had Eva. Let's get a divorce. I like the younger girl from the office now. By the way, Eva looks just like you, chubby like a meatball."
What did you just say? I couldn't believe my ears.
"You've been overweight for a long time. I can't take it anymore. I like slender women. Pack your stuff and get out ASAP."
His argument was completely absurd. What nonsense are you talking about? I can't do that. Confused, I immediately contacted his parents. Leo wants a divorce because I had a child and lost my looks. Can you please put some sense into him? Contrary to my frantic state, my in-laws remained indifferent. If he says so, it must be true. It's evidence that you haven't made enough effort. What have you been doing? You shouldn't upset my son. I had no choice but to despair.
"Get out already! I have no interest in someone who's given up being a woman."
How are Eva and I supposed to live from now on?
"I don't care. You should learn to stand on your own feet. Bye-bye, meatball mom and baby."
I had reached my limit with his repeated insults. That very day, I decided to live with Eva. I didn't cry. To be precise, I couldn't even cry. I was rather outraged by him, who had insulted not only me, but also our own daughter. With nowhere else to go, I turned to my parents for help. They had my younger brother and his wife living with them, and they had a baby of their own, roughly the same age as Eva. I thought it would be a burden for them if we moved in, but I had no other option. When I asked if we could stay for a while, both my parents and my brother's family warmly welcomed us. I shared the whole story with them and mentioned my marriage was over. They encouraged me to stay as long as I needed. That was when I finally shed tears. I couldn't stop crying, feeling their warm support. Then my brother's wife Emma made a suggestion. "You will probably need a lawyer now. I used to work as a secretary at a law firm before I got married. A friend of mine still works there, so I can introduce you." Thanks to her, I met a competent lawyer a few days later. Sophia was in her early 40s with her own divorce experience, and she was very empathetic and helpful during our consultations. We had several rounds of divorce negotiations, but we couldn't reach an agreement easily. Leo refused to pay child support. Sophia, after a brief preamble about wanting to tell me her personal opinion, said, "Your husband is arguing that you've neglected your duties as a woman and prioritized the child. He's like a selfish child in a man's body. He married you to please his parents, and controlling you is the goal of his marriage. I don't want to discourage you from pursuing child support, but I also think it might be best to completely sever ties now. Both he and his parents are unreasonable people. Instead of dealing with them, I think looking toward the future is more constructive." She spoke seriously, and something inside me snapped. The reasons for divorce were so flimsy. The insult he hurled at Eva at the brink of separation was too much. Dealing with him any longer was unbearable. I wanted to be free from him as soon as possible. I made up my mind. I was determined to raise Eva on my own and find happiness beyond this point. From now on, you need to work hard to support your daughter. Are you really ready? I sure am, I replied firmly, making a commitment to face the future head-on. When the divorce was filed, I resumed my work as a freelance web designer. Fortunately, it was a popular field, and I started getting steady work even as a freelancer. I worked tirelessly, designing day and night, and juggling nursing and childcare along the way. As a freelancer, I launched a website and made full use of social media, like X and Instagram for marketing. As a result of my efforts, I was able to earn roughly the same income as Leo in about a year. Moreover, I won an excellent award in a web design contest, which brought in even more work. Then, I started my own design company. During the times when I couldn't manage everything on my own, Emma helped as a secretary. I also had the assistance of part-time employees, allowing the company to run smoothly. As the business grew, I realized the need for sales efforts. So my brother, who had previously worked for a major advertising agency, quit his job and became the sales manager. With his natural business acumen, he built on the social media-focused marketing I had been doing and expanded into advertising using traditional media. The performance soared in no time. As my company gained recognition, I started paying more attention to my appearance. At the time of the separation, I was always struggling, with no makeup and just wearing glasses, while my determination remained the same. Being in the position of a CEO meant I couldn't help but be conscious of the perception of my employees and clients. So I graduated from the plain look, invested in branded suits and bags, got a neat professional hairstyle, and kept my makeup subtle enough not to appear overbearing. I realized that my confidence and pride as a business owner were reflected in my appearance. One day after work, I went to a restaurant in Chelsea with Emma. It had a great atmosphere and was one of my favorites. The staff were friendly and always recommended the daily specials, so choosing a dish was easy. Above all, despite being an upscale restaurant, it didn't have a snobbish atmosphere, which I liked. While we were chatting at our table, I noticed a familiar face approaching. It was Leo.
You seem to be doing well.
He brought water to our table, wearing a big smile on his face. He was working as a waiter at this restaurant. He acted over-friendly, unlike a typical waiter, and the arrogance he had before our divorce flashed through my mind, making me feel nauseated. "Oh, it's you. You seem to be doing fine too," I responded with a smile. After our divorce, I had heard through the grapevine that he had lost his job due to his relationships with female colleagues. I hadn't heard much about his whereabouts since then, but my relatives who frequented this restaurant recently informed me that he had started working as a waiter there. Emma and I had come there out of curiosity, pretending not to know anything.
You're looking great.
His attitude, as if he had forgotten the way he had ridiculed me in the past, immediately put me in battle mode. "You're annoying. Get out of my sight."
Come on, don't be so cold. You're running your own business, right? I was surprised to see an article in the magazine. Let me work for you, huh?
I couldn't believe his audacity. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about.
Oh, come on. We used to be married, you know. How about giving it another try?
Quit joking around. Go away. You're ruining my dinner. I made a shooing gesture with my hand. Immediately, he started fuming.
How dare you give me an attitude?
The one without the right attitude here is you. I'm a customer.
What the heck? A woman like you acting all high and mighty. It pisses me off. Don't forget you used to live off me.
He has been divorced by me and fired from his job, but showed absolutely no remorse. It was amazing how people like him existed in the world. Amidst the heated exchange, I remained strangely calm. Then, the owner of the restaurant appeared. "What seems to be the matter, ma'am?" Charlotte and I had been friends since the restaurant opened. We had known each other since her early days as a waitress, and we shared a strong bond as business owners. I heard our waiter here raising his voice. "Is there any trouble?" she asked with a concerned expression. He has been making baseless accusations against me. Can you please do something? As soon as I finished my sentence, she glared at Leo. Why are you causing trouble?
She and I are married, and she started a new company. So I asked her for a job. But then, she suddenly got mad, and...
Let's clarify first that we are not married anymore. He insulted me and our daughter, and we divorced. We are strangers now. And yet, he's directing this kind of behavior at a customer. I could see that Charlotte's face was turning as red as a lobster.
She's got a big mouth for a woman.
His excuse made absolutely no sense. What? For a woman? I'm a woman too, you know. Her anger had finally reached its peak.
Oh no, I mean, you're different, not a woman. I mean, not like that.
What are you saying? I absolutely despise people who discriminate based on gender the most. We don't need someone like you in our restaurant. You are fired. Get out. Her anger voice echoed through the restaurant.
Oh no, I apologize. I'm really sorry. I have nowhere to go if I get fired from here. Please spare me.
He pleaded with the owner with a pitiful expression. You should learn to stand on your own feet. I smiled at him. He was dragged away by security, wailing, and was kicked out of the restaurant. According to Charlotte, he had been hopping from one job to another after he was fired from his previous job. She pitied him and hired him as a waiter, but he ended up repaying that kindness in this manner. Truly a case of getting what he deserved. I've never seen someone fit the phrase, "You reap what you sow," so perfectly. Afterward, my company continued to do well. What's more, I will be graduating from being single soon. I met another entrepreneur with a divorce history at a cross-industry networking event. Fellow souls with similar scars, we quickly became good friends. I have a daughter, and he's alone. We took our time to strengthen our bonds with Eva and our families. We decided to start a new family together by next spring. My new partner is loving and kind for a change. Leo, on the other hand, according to the investigation of my competent secretary Emma, he remains unemployed and single after being kicked out of that restaurant. Despite how much he used to make fun of my appearance, he now seems to be displaying a grotesque example of middle-aged flat. Fate and the passage of time can be cruel. My life has been like a roller coaster ride. I got married, had a child, got divorced, started working, and established a company. I've learned the meaning of you reap what you sow all too well. If there is someone out there feeling like they're in the middle of a dark tunnel with no end in sight, I want to say this. There is always an exit. There is no night without a dawning. By the way, the lawyer who supported me through my divorce is now our company's legal advisor.
Mom, help! Those words caught me off guard. Here was my daughter Stacy, wet from the rain at our doorstep. And there was Carl, my husband, who should have been home. I had always thought we were living the dream after marriage, but now I'm suspecting Carl's hiding something. Well, he's not the only one with plans. I'll get to the bottom of this. I'm Maria, 34, managing a restaurant. I met Carl when he dined at my place, and we tied the knot when I was 25. Fast forward to now, and we're a family of 3, with Stacy, who's 7. Carl's job at a major company treats us pretty well, from dinners out, vacations, to even buying a house once our daughter arrived. It seemed like we were living the good life. But that perception changed one particular day. My restaurant gig often means working weekends and holidays. Carl would step in, looking after Stacy and whipping up simple meals. I had peace of mind heading to work. Then came that one Saturday post-summer break. A big storm was brewing, and I anticipated a quiet day at the restaurant. With delays in public transport and few patrons showing up, I thought of my staff's safety and decided to wrap up early. Heading home was challenging with the rain pelting down and gusty winds. Our home is located in a quiet residential area, about 20 minutes away by car. It's a house we renovated with great care. Whenever I see the lights of our home, I always feel relieved. But this time, it was different. Finding Stacy drenched outside was a shocker. "Stacy!" When I shouted out to her, she looked up. "Mom, help!" I rushed to her, leaving behind my umbrella and bag. "What happened? Why are you out here?" She clung to me and said, "I went out the door and got locked out." Our door auto-locks, and she couldn't recall the code. But still, where's Dad? He should be here, right? What on earth is he doing? I felt anger rising. "After eating lunch, I got sleepy and took a nap. When I woke up, Dad was gone. I thought he might be outside, so I stepped out, but the door locked behind me." What's going on? First things first, I got Stacy cleaned up and both of us warmed up with cocoa. Carl was still MIA. His shoes weren't at the entrance, so he's probably out. Did Dad say he was going somewhere? "No, he didn't say anything. He was just gone when I woke up." This is taking too long for just a shopping trip. I called his cell.
Hello? What?
Surprisingly, he answered immediately. Holding back my frustration, I calmly asked, "Where are you right now?"
Huh? Where? I'm at home with Stacy. Why?
His response left me momentarily confused. He was definitely not telling the truth. But why? Is there something he's not sharing?
What happened? Did something come up?
I really wanted to ask him that very question, but I held back and instead said, I might be running late today. Is Stacy doing okay?"
She was sleeping when I checked. Oh yeah, she's good. I've got everything under control.
Something felt off. I made up my mind. Okay, thanks for looking out for her.
Alright, take care.
I opted to take Stacy to my mother-in-law Karen's house. It's just a short walk from ours. We often rely on her, especially since my own family is far away. She's been living alone since her husband passed a few years back and always enjoys our visits. With my husband at work and Stacy out of school, Karen's been our go-to for childcare, especially this summer. Despite my impromptu call, she kindly offered to whip up dinner. Karen's years working at a diner made her a fabulous cook. I've always been a fan, especially as a fellow restaurant worker. The storm has subsided by the time Stacy and I headed out. Upon our arrival, Karen jumped right in. "Maria, what's going on? What happened?" I was momentarily taken aback. Huh? I first thought she was referencing the earlier events, but she seemed to hint at something else. "Carl popped by earlier in a hurry asking to borrow money." "What?" "He said it was urgent and he'd fill me in later, then dashed off." "He did?" "You and Stacy are okay, right?" "We're both fine." "Were you aware he needed money?" "I had no clue. How much did he borrow?" "I gave him $3,400. $3,400? That's a significant amount. I know he has savings. What could have gone wrong? Borrowing from her, even after dipping into his savings, indicates something major. Could it be? Karen trailed off, looking worried. What are you thinking? Did you spot anything unusual about my son recently? Actually, that's precisely why I'm here. I filled her in on the recent events. When I got off work early, I found our daughter outside in the rain and my husband nowhere in sight. When I rang him up, he insisted Stacy was right there with him. That's definitely weird. Hold on, what are you implying? I hate to say it, but there's something I've kept from you. Spill it. Some time ago, he got deep into gambling. He drained his savings and even considered borrowing from some shady characters. Are you serious? This was the first time I was hearing about any gambling since our wedding. I had always seen him as someone who'd steer clear of trouble, so I fully trusted him. Once he met you, he seemed to have put aside his gambling issues and saved diligently for your marriage. I believed that settling down and having Stacy changed him. But lately, he's been dropping Stacy here on weekends, claiming he's swamped at work. That's starting to make more sense now. Hold on, what are you saying? Carl usually enjoys his weekends off. I always assumed that when I was at work, Stacy was at home with him. You didn't know? He's dropped her off here quite a bit recently, saying work's been crazy. Turning to Stacy, I asked, You were at home with Dad while I was working, right? She hesitated before replying. Sometimes we came to Grandma's. Why didn't you mention this? Daddy told me not to. Oh, come on. Karen let out a heavy sigh. He's fallen back into his gambling ways, deceiving his parents and his wife. Worse yet, he had exposed our daughter to potential harm. She could have gotten seriously sick if she'd been caught in that rain any longer. I'm so sorry. Don't blame yourself, Karen. The responsibility is all Carl's. But I helped raise him, and I missed the signs of his return to gambling. After thinking for a bit, she said, We should give him a reality check. Stay here tonight, Maria. A sleepover at Grandma's? Yay! Stacy exclaimed. As I cleaned up after dinner, Stacy, who was engrossed in a TV show with Karen, called out, Mom, your phone's ringing. Got it. After drying my hands, I saw my husband was calling. Hello? Maria, Stacy's missing. His voice was filled with panic. What do you mean missing? You told me she was home with you. I can't find her anywhere. What? Didn't you stay home? Weren't you with Stacy? She's just not here. But you were with her, right? She was napping and I just... He stuttered. Spit it out. What happened? What should I do? Did you leave her alone at the house? Not exactly, but... So you're freaking out because she's not there? She wouldn't go out on her own in that rain unless she woke up, freaked out, and realized you left her. He seemed taken aback. You left, didn't you? I just went to a nearby store. I wasn't sure when you'd get back, so I went to pick up some groceries. And that took hours? No, just 10, maybe 20 minutes. Are you aware of how long Stacy was waiting outside in the rain? What? She was stuck outside during the downpour. That could have ended horribly. Wait, what? His voice was incredibly loud. What are you talking about? I closed my restaurant early because of the storm. When I got home, you were gone and Stacy was drenched, huddled by the front door. I had no idea. How long ago do you think that was? Just head to the hospital now. Hospital? Is Stacy there? If she had gotten seriously ill, it would have been on you. I'm on my way, but can you lend me some money for a cab? Seriously? Don't you have that much on you? I lost my wallet. It was clear he was just spinning more lies. If you lost your wallet, you wouldn't have been able to get in the house. Your card key is always in there. I used the PIN, but... You've always said you don't want to bother with a PIN. Ugh. Just own up to it. You were broke, right? I had some unexpected bills. What unexpected bills? I had to get some stuff. Where's the hospital? I gave him Karen's address and ended the call. I smirked, imagining his confused expression. He showed up quickly, out of breath. Stacy, is she alright? She's over there. I pointed to the bathroom and she gave a little wave while brushing her teeth. Oh, hi, Daddy. Where were you? Were you at work? When I confronted my husband about it, his response was, You set me up. Set up? Who's been playing who? I snapped back, waiting for Karen to escort Stacy to bed. When did you even start? Start what? Gambling. Ugh. Lying won't help you now. Fine, so what if I did? You think this is okay? Spending our savings, lying to your own mother to borrow money? Can you even pay her back? He then suddenly snapped. What's the big deal? I just lost today, but usually I win. All those nice dinners, trips. You, enjoyed them, didn't you? Those were all from your gambling wins? Yeah, and you benefited too. I don't see why you're so upset now. So you've been doing this for years now. All these years of lies. I just didn't think I needed to tell you. I wouldn't mind if he had a hobby outside of work, but gambling to the point where you lie, borrow money, and put our child in danger? That's unacceptable. His dismissive attitude frustrated me even more. As we continued our argument, Karen handed him a document. "Carl, sign this." "What?" His face went white. "Are we really taking divorce over a little gambling?" I had filled them out earlier. She could have died. But she just got wet from the rain. But if Maria hadn't come home, she could have been out there for hours. Do you get that? I didn't think she'd be outside. The problem is you left the house for hours while she was asleep. I didn't mean to. If you can't look out for our child, maybe it's best if you split up with Maria. What? While he muttered something, Karen firmly handed him the divorce papers to sign. This is how it'll be. I keep the papers and you're not coming home until every penny is paid back. What the? If you can't pay up, these papers are getting filed. All right, just hold off on that. The ball's in your court and it's up to Maria and Stacy to decide if they can forgive you. Having your support meant the world to me. My husband was clearly distressed, and I figured out it wasn't just a $3,400 debt to his mom that weighed him down. Turns out he owed big to friends and other acquaintances. That debt kept him swamped at work and away from the gambling tables, especially under Karen's watchful gaze. Meanwhile, Stacy and I thrived without him around. Honestly, life felt easier, and sometimes I wondered if we were better without him. Besides, Stacy could spend time with her dad over at Karen's. The idea of permanently parting ways crossed my mind, but severing ties with Karen, such an ally and support, wasn't an option. Plus, she adored her granddaughter. Food became our bridge to communicate. Stacy showed a keen interest in cooking, so I began teaching her the ropes. Amidst these days, I began contemplating leaving my job. Not to become a stay-at-home mom, as I loved working in the restaurant and had a mortgage to consider. Instead, I dreamt of opening my own small cafe. Our house, spacious with a beautiful garden, seemed ideal. I thought about converting part of it into a cafe. So, as Stacy moved up in school, I brought my dream to life, turning a part of our home into a bustling cafe. Its popularity soared, thanks to Stacy's helping hand after school and Karen's delightful cooking. People especially came back for Karen's daily specials. Our days were a blend of cafe talks, brainstorming sessions, and pure joy. Stacy seemed happier with me around all the time. When my husband finally settled his debt and came home, he seemed a mere shadow of his former self. There were still debts, and he considered quitting his job to pay them off with his severance. As long as he stays away from gambling, we should be good. Forgiveness isn't on the table just yet. Maybe I'll let him handle the dishes to teach him a lesson or two.
What on earth is this food?
Huh? My mother-in-law Pam exclaimed, tossing my container straight into the trash. What are you doing?
How could you bring these leftovers?
Biting back my words, I tidied up the spilled food, shooting her a sharp look. I'm out of here.
And don't come back.
I'm Maggie, a 30-year-old office worker. So here's the news. I just tied the knot with Richard. We first crossed paths on a group blind date. Honestly, I almost bailed, but a friend convinced me to balance the group. Who knew? Fate was calling. Richard totally caught my eye. Super charming and easy on the eyes. Chatting with him was super engaging, and I found myself being attracted to him. We swapped our numbers and the texting began. Dinners, movies, the usual couple stuff followed. Every hangout was pure gold. We were totally into each other. After going out for a bit, he spilled his feelings and boom, we were officially a thing. Everything was on the up and up with us. His date game was strong, had me on cloud 9. I was head over heels, especially seeing how he treasured me. About a year in, he hit me with the big question. Maggie, I can't picture life without you. Forever together. Sound good? Will you marry me? Absolutely. And just like that, wedding bells were in the air. Then came intro time. We met the folks. Richard, being genuine, really clicked with my parents. They were all, "Treat our girl right. Promise she's in good hands." Phew, parents approved. Now the tables turned. Time to meet his family. Walking up to their place, I was mad nervous. His place was straight out of a history book. "Is your family kinda a big deal?" "Legend has it Grandpa owned this posh jewelry spot. Cashed in, built this mansion. This is home base." Gotcha. Chit-chatting, the front door swings open and there she was. His mom. "Nice to meet you. I'm Maggie."
Step inside.
Her poker face game was strong. I hoped for more warmth, but okay. Inside, Dad-in-law was chilling. Did the intro thing and got a supernatural "Pleased to meet you." Awkward silence filled the room. Richard, trying to lighten things up, was like, "Oh yeah, we brought some treats." Mom's face lit up, if only for a sec.
Thanks, we'll snack later.
I mean, I expected tea time now, but okay. Is she not feeling me? She just took the gift and sat there. Come to think of it, they didn't give me anything. No coffee or cookies. I felt a bit of that cold shoulder. The conversation was super stilted, as expected. Richard, Mr. Optimist, launched into our wedding details. My mother-in-law, Pam, couldn't resist.
When you're marrying into this family, there are rules.
Go on.
Big house, right? Family get-togethers are a monthly thing here.
All right.
We expect you at every shindig. Plus, pre-party setup? That's on you.
You're kidding. She went all ultimatum on me. What? I glanced at Richard. He tried to soften it. "It's kinda how we roll. Hope you get it." I really want this to work, but monthly family bashes sound daunting. Is this even a good idea? Doubts were creeping in.
This might be over your head. It's a high society thing.
Her smirk? Ugh. Felt like she was looking down on my family. Not cool at all. It's all good. I hope to get along with the family. She looked thrown off.
Great, I'm eager to see.
Her eyes were just as fiery as mine, and that wrapped that day. Later, the whole family jam happened. Pam was still talking sarcastically. After my folks asked me if I was sure about marrying Richard and into his family, I totally got where my parents were coming from, but I was smitten with him at that point. Plus, I felt that backing out would be letting my mother-in-law win, so the thought of canceling the wedding didn't even cross my mind. We had our beautiful wedding, jetted off on our honeymoon, and started our married life. About a fortnight later, we had one of those family gatherings Pam had talked about. We decided to give it a shot. I was curious if the rest of the family would be more welcoming, or if they'd be as frosty as her. Stepping into their home, there she was, seemingly waiting just for me.
Took you long enough. Hurry up and get ready,
she said, her face as cold as ice, and steered me into the kitchen. I slipped on an apron, and she said,
You're on food duty for 20 today.
I thought to myself, are you kidding? Why such a big get-together outside of holidays? Cooking under her watchful eye was daunting. She critiqued me nonstop.
You're all thumbs. Do you even know how to handle a kitchen? Your chopping's all over the place.
But I've always been confident in my cooking. Heck, I felt she wasn't any better with a knife. Maybe she was just looking for excuses to nitpick. I brushed her comments aside, focusing on the task at hand. Time was ticking, and guests were coming. After wrapping up in the kitchen, I felt wiped out. I was about to catch my breath in the living room when my father-in-law Wally chimed in. Hey, could you set the table? So there I was, laying out dinnerware. I was dying for a breather, but no chance. With everything set, I plopped down on the sofa with some water. Pam was quick to notice.
Why are you sitting? Say hi to everyone.
It felt a bit over the top since I was merely resting for a second, but I figured I should mingle, so I headed over. The room was packed. I was overwhelmed. About 20 folks, just like she said. Some looked familiar from the wedding. As I introduced myself, they all responded warmly. When they got a taste of the food I'd prepared, the compliments rolled in. "You made this, Maggie?"
Yes, I hope you enjoy it.
"It's outstanding. Well done."
Much appreciated.
They were genuinely lovely. They ensured I took a break, even reminding me to eat.
Thank you for making all these dishes for us, Maggie.
Their thanks was heartwarming, but in the middle of a conversation, Pam beckoned.
Why are you lazing around?
She quipped. "I'm not. I was just mingling."
You should be serving, not chatting. I'll do the talking.
What? It felt like she was purposely sidelining me. My brief bonding time with the family was all I got. She kept me running errands the whole party. And the post-party cleanup? A total nightmare. She barked orders, but didn't lift a finger. With Richard and his dad out cold from too much booze, the cleaning was all on me. Once done, she said,
"Nice work. You can head out now,"
and shooed me away. My husband was out cold, and she sent me home by myself. I left utterly drained and miffed. Her behavior was one thing, but my husband's indifference? That stung. He seemed to have had a blast, oblivious to everything. I felt alone, realizing he wasn't my ally. The next afternoon, he finally showed up.
Why'd you bail last night, Maggie?
What'd you mean? Your mom sent me packing.
That doesn't sound like my mom,
he said, clearly taken aback. Well, she did. She's been riding me since the party prep started. His face went from disbelief to anger as I filled him in.
Enough with the lies. Why do you keep lying like this? Have you lost your mind from drinking too much?
Honestly, I was dumbfounded. I never imagined he'd trust his mom so much more than me. Even with his parents' previous antics, I held on to the hope that he'd back me up. But that hope vanished quickly. From that point on, I started having doubts about him. I questioned whether we could keep going like this. We were newlyweds after all, just about half a month in. I figured I'd give it a year, if only for the sake of the folks who celebrated with us at the wedding. With that resolution, I kept going with our marriage. He tends to bounce back after blowing up, so thankfully everyday life wasn't like walking on pins and needles. A month later, another gathering at the in-laws loomed. Prepping myself, I made my way there, curious about how many I'd be cooking for this time. I greeted. "Good morning, Pam."
"Come to the kitchen right away."
Per usual, she was straight to the point. Donning my apron in the kitchen, I noted fewer ingredients. Asking how many guests to expect, she responded dismissively.
7.
"Just 7?
Got a problem with that?"
No. I was taken aback. Last time it had been way more, but 7 felt doable. With that mindset, I began. Yet, like clockwork, she found flaws with every move. With fewer attendees, I hoped to actually enjoy the gathering. But the opposite happened. Pam, now able to monitor me more closely, kept me on a tight leash, denying me any downtime. It was draining, even more so than last time. And my husband? He just immersed himself in food and had fun, leaving me to tend for myself. Post-party, the men crashed, and Pam, lounging on the sofa, ordered me to handle the mess. More beat than before, she had me out the door soon after with a snarky,
"Strangers can't stay overnight here. Only family can. So you better leave."
Honestly, I was ready to leave. Dead tired, I hailed a cab, went home, and crashed. The next day, my husband strolled in, grumbling.
You're so selfish. How could you just bail on the family?
I was dumbfounded. Your mom literally told me I'm not family and sent me home. But this only made him angrier.
Why the lies? I can't believe you'd stoop this low.
His words stung. I told myself I couldn't handle another episode like this. A few weeks later, he mentioned a major family gathering.
Too much cooking for one morning at my folks. Maggie, they want some dishes prepped in advance.
I begrudgingly agreed, thinking it'd just cause more issues if I declined. After a full day of cooking, I packed everything up. Cooking from home spared me any nagging from my mother-in-law. I got to their place early, prepping for the 50 expected guests. Once all arrived, Pam announced,
Thank you for coming. The meal will be out shortly. Enjoy some drinks in the meantime.
She seemed to revel in playing hostess. She signaled me for the food. As I started unpacking the dishes to transfer them, she exclaimed,
What on earth is this?
What do you mean? There's quiche, fried chicken, the dishes you asked for.
Who'd eat such mundane food?
In a shocking move, she tossed my dishes in the trash right in front of everyone.
What are you doing? How could you bring these leftovers? I apologize, everyone. My daughter-in-law made a mistake. But don't worry, I've prepared some exquisite appetizers for you all.
Turns out she'd planned this humiliation from the start. After I spent hours in the kitchen, she carelessly discarded the food right in front of our family, making me feel small. It was clear she was trying to push me around, aiming to have me in her grasp. How she managed that with such ease is baffling. Without uttering a word, I tidied up and shot her an icy look. I'm out of here.
And don't come back.
And just so you know, I want a divorce. My outburst left my in-laws and husband speechless. Their only reaction was a stunned, "What?"
Wait a minute, Maggie. How'd you jump to divorce? This wasn't on me. We just celebrated our 3-month anniversary. Imagine the gossip.
He complained. Looking back, I should have pulled the plug on this earlier or skipped the wedding altogether. A voice from the crowd said, "Can't you see you're why she's thinking divorce already?" More voices pitched in.
That's right. If he can't stand up for his wife against his own mom's antics, that's just sad.
For real?
From day one, Pam has been nothing but nasty to Maggie.
And the silent duo, husband and so, are equally bad.
The relatives laid into the in-laws, who were visibly shaken.
Hang on, everyone. What's the deal here?
Pam stuttered as relatives began to rise.
We can't stomach your antics anymore. Truth be told, these monthly invites are a total drag. We came out of respect for family, but seeing your constant digs at your daughter-in-law? We're done.
Another voiced their agreement.
Count our family out too.
As the room buzzed with movement and chatter, Pam's distress was clear.
Wait, what do we do?
Choosing to exit with the crowd, I heard my husband's desperate plea.
Maggie, I messed up. Please, give me another chance.
But a relative's response was swift.
Grow up. Where were you when she needed you?
Later, I got an attorney to set the divorce wheels in motion. He dragged his feet a bit, but the mention of court had him signing on the dotted line. Since that day, it seems the in-laws' invite list has dwindled to none. Word is, Pam's now a shadow of her former self. And my ex? He's become the joke at his office and around town, known as the guy who lost his wife in a flash. Rumor has it, work's not going so well for him. Can't say I'm surprised. Meanwhile, I've settled back with my parents and jumped back into my career. Thank heavens I hung onto that job post-wedding. For now, it's all about work and saving up. I've pressed pause on the whole love scene, but when I'm game to dive back in, I'll be vetting the in-laws for sure.